don't know if you've seen this, Grant, but ESPN does this. I don't know. They call it their FPI rankings, and essentially, it's
Packers.
electronic rankings. And I don't know what the hell it means, but at any rate, they take each team from last season to the next, and they predict their overall point differential. Now, when you look at this, gaining 9 points over the course of a season or gaining or losing 6 points over the course of the season may not seem like a lot, but it can certainly be the difference in multiple wins, right? We see it every year. The 49ers are 24th in the league, near the bottom of the league. They're by the Lions, by the way. The Lions actually didn't get as bad as the 49ers. And the explanation for this is, and this is Seth Walder talking about this, is essentially because of Trey Lance. So early on, he talks about, and I don't have the quote here, but he talks about if a quarterback doesn't play, whether it's because they're not good, they're young, or they are injured, that weighs heavily into our index here. And Trey Lance did not play a lot last year, so that weighs heavily. Okay, that's fair. But he continues to say that despite the superstars and Deebo Samuel, Nick Bosa, and a great coach in Kyle Shanahan and a strong run defense, it's hard to overcome. This is the best part. It's hard to overcome a relative liability at quarterback. And that's our best guess for Lance at this point, is that he is a liability at quarterback.
Why are you guessing?
Grant.
Okay. So it's just an incorrect statement. Like, I don't see, you can't support this with facts. Relative liability. You could have said relative unknown, because that's exactly what he is. But you want to talk about liability. All right, well, let's talk about the numbers he put up compared to the other rookie quarterbacks. Like, they had this the Patriots at 15 with Mac Jones and his noodle arm. Sorry for people who like noodle arms and noodles and arms. And Mac. But Mac Jones' quarterback rating last year on a good team was 92.5. Trey Lance's quarterback rating was 97.3. So how are we writing this guy off? I mean, really, what did he do that was that bad? His quarterback rating of all the rookies was by far the highest. So really, what did he do that was such a deal breaker? People like a relative liability. I mean, he might be, but there's no evidence that points to that. And there's really this much evidence to look at anyway. So I mean, if you want to, they had him at third in the NFC West. Fair. You want to put him at, I mean, they had him below the Lions. That seems a little harsh. But if you want to say they're going to be a losing team next year, okay, I'm listening. But it's because the quarterback hasn't played. It's because he's young and inexperienced behind a bad offensive line. That's the story. It's not that he sucks. It's not that he's, it's not that he's a relative liability. Like, no, he's the youngest quarterback in the league. He didn't play last year. He didn't play the year before that. And Lake Thompson's gone. Alex Mack, we don't know. Michael Lynch, we don't know. I mean, that's the story. You don't need the word relative.
He's just a liability.
There's a reason the Niners have Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, and run the ball more than any team except Seattle. It's Jimmy's limitations. That's why.
I guess that's my frustration with this comment is I totally understand that there's an unknown with Trey Lance.
Right.
You said it, right? And that's true. We don't know. We can make assumptions. We've got a small sample size. We have our opinions. Some think he's going to be great right here. Some think he's going to be okay, and some think he's going to be terrible. We're
talking 178 snaps. 178 snaps.
Right.
Plus preseason. Yeah.
Totally fine. I totally understand that. I don't mind that position. But to act as if Jimmy Garoppolo was some world beater, and that's why they were able to do what they did last year, that's just flat out wrong.
Or to act that Trey is a flat out bust. Like, based on what? Sir? His 97.3 quarterback rating? Come on. What?
That's a great point. That's a great point. And so to me, that's where my frustration comes in. To say that this guy's a liability, but to act as if the previous quarterback was not a liability. I mean, we're talking about a guy that is arguably, not arguably, just statistically the worst fourth quarter quarterback in playoff history. This is a guy that was putting up 1970s numbers in the playoffs, and they were still able to make it to a Super Bowl. They were still able to make it to a second NFC championship game. And in my opinion, this team is slightly better. We'll talk about that in a minute, but I think this team is slightly better than what it was last year. So even if the quarterback is a quote unquote relative liability, well, the quarterback was last year. So at what point do we take that into consideration?
Well, I mean, look, I know Niner fans get upset when they feel like they get disrespected by the media and stuff, but what Trey Lance doesn't need is a ton of expectations. People being like, yo, Niners going to win 14 games this year. Niners going to the Super Bowl. Like, he doesn't need that. Let them call the Niners 24th best in the league. Great. So that way, if they're 17th best, he exceeded expectations. Like, fine. I think that's a good thing, because one of the toughest, people say Trey Lance is in the best situation possible. Yeah, except for the expectations, except for the fact that he has to replace this mediocre magical winner who's not good but just wins, and everyone thinks he's special. Like, that sucks. So keep calling the Niners bad. I'm trying to do my part and lower the expectations for Trey right now. But people want to say that he's going to win 14 games. Like, that's going to happen. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Temper your expectations. That's fair.
Yeah.
Brash Cat, I'll say this. I know Grant's not a fantasy guy. The 14th overall quarterback, I'm taking that. If you can get him at the 14th overall quarterback in a fantasy league, absolutely jump on that. He will put up fantasy numbers regardless of how good of a quarterback he is, because A, he's in the Kyle Shanahan offense, and B, he's mobile. So I would take that.
He might not throw a lot of passes, but he could score a lot of touchdowns through the air and with his arms too. He's going to run, and he's going to throw a lot of touchdown passes probably. We'll see. Big plays. That's a good call. He's not going to throw a lot, I don't think.
No. And they shouldn't ask him to throw a lot, and he should be fine. I don't understand this comment fully. Maybe I don't. First of all, in Portland, where I'm from, there was a Chinatown. There isn't here in Tampa. Is there a Chinatown in San Francisco?
There's famous Chinatown in San Francisco, and there's a Chinatown out there too.
Okay. So does it smell like curry? Is that like curry like the food, or is that a Steph Curry reference? I don't know. This comment's got me a little lost.
Yeah, I'm lost. No, it doesn't smell like curry.
But I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And to be fair, anytime, even if I don't understand it, and maybe that's just me not being the smartest, I got to give you love. That's the way it works. Here you go.
SF has a huge Chinatown. It's like a tourist destination. People come from all over the world to see that. And the food is hella good. Dim sum up in Chinatown, let me tell you.
It's the place to be. Well,
no,
you'll have to show me, Grant. I plan on being there for the Chiefs game. You'll have to show me around a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get on to Sim's comments. 49er minded. You were wondering what Sim said. Sim said a couple things. We'll read this one here, but he says, I think the accuracy when talking about Trey Lance is still the biggest question. Just pure ability to be a thrower and a passer. Again, every game was an effing miracle to get back to 50% throwing. I mean, it really was. And I feel like Shanahan
said that?
This is what he says.
Every game was an effing miracle.
To get to 50% throwing for Trey Lance. Yep.
Okay.
He says, and I feel like Shanahan had to basically do every game, Grant. Every game.
Wow.
He says he feels like Shanahan had to call plays essentially just to get him back to the 50% mark. And I'll tell you what else he said. He talked about Trey Lance. And actually, here, why don't you comment on this one? I'll find the other comment because I don't want to butcher it. But yeah, I can see your eyebrows are already perked.
Just the way people like manipulate this small sample size just amuses me every time. All right. So he made 3 appearances last year. And he's right. In the first 2, he hovered around 50%. He came in relief, and Seattle was 9 for 18. Now his quarterback rating was 117, but he was 9 for 18 in that game. Next game, he started 15 for 29 in Arizona. Now, it was a ridiculous game plan, but that's true. His first 2 appearances, the completion percentage was not good. Then he sits for 2 months. Then he plays a must-win game against Houston, and it goes 16 for 23. That's 69%. That's 70%. I mean, did that not happen? Wow, it was 1 of 3 appearances. How do you just edit that out? And if he could do that in his second start, what's his future? I mean, he was one of the youngest quarterbacks ever last year. So to me, I mean, I've watched a lot of Trey Lance more than Chris Sims. And when I see is when he misses by a lot. It's a little bit like, if you remember Randy Johnson, he would have like a pitch a game, or he would just miss everything. You'd be like, and that's Trey Lance a little bit. He will miss big. But in training camp, I charted it. He completed 69% of his throws. Jimmy completed 63. In his last start, he completed 69% of his throws. In college, he completed 66, 67% of his throws. He makes good decisions. He doesn't force things. He doesn't predetermine his reads. He goes to the open guy. just because he misses one wildly here and there doesn't mean he's going to be hovering around 50. Like, I think we don't know about that yet.
This is what I'm talking about when I said flat out lying. Grant,
Yeah.
he's had 2 starts. One of them, he was 16 and 23 passing.
What are we talking
That's
about?
nowhere near 50%.
Yeah,
they didn't have to load him up with 9 for 9 passing on short dump offs to get him there. That's not the way that game worked. In fact,
No,
he
that's
pushed
Jimmy.
the ball downfield more than
No, that's
Jimmy
Jimmy.
Garoppolo ever has. Exactly.
Jimmy is the one where, hey, let's give you a shovel pass. Let's give you a screen pass. Yeah.
So that's my point. Here was his other comment, which I don't have loaded to look at, but he says a lot of his big time throws, again, talking about Lance, this is Chris Sims, a lot of his big time throws were Shanahan specials. What do you think about that?
Good. I mean, what? So his big time throws came off play action. What's wrong with that? What is wrong with that? How are they supposed to come? It's like he can't do it right. If he extends a play and throws deep, well, it wasn't on schedule. And if it's off play action, well, that was all scheme. Like, there's literally nothing he can do right. I'm sorry, Chris, you're losing me. And I like a lot of your analysis. You were right about Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, but dude, I feel like you were way low on Trey Lance pre-draft, and you're basically digging in. Like, it's okay to say you were wrong, or to change your opinion, or to say I still don't know. I was down on him pre-draft, but I'm waiting on more evidence before. Just the stuff he's pointing to feels flimsy as hell and flat out wrong.
Again, to this comment, I would say if Shanahan's dialing up all these deep plays, then how come Jimmy Garoppolo is not throwing deep?
Where were they for Jimmy?
Exactly. So can it also just be possible that Trey Lance can do things that Jimmy Garoppolo can't, and that's okay? Like, that's just not, we can't just say that that's the case. We have to give a reason as to why it's happening.
Also, what the fuck is a Kyle Shanahan special? Like, define that. Tell me what that means, because it doesn't mean anything. We're guessing. We think it means play action.
He says guys are running wide open downfield is I think the way that he talked about that.
Okay, so scheme shot plays.
Yep.
Okay, well, Jimmy still wouldn't hit it. We saw Jimmy miss what's his face? Kyle Juszczyk up the right sideline, wide open. Was that not a Kyle Shanahan special? The fullback leak, wide open up the right side. Jimmy missed it. So Trey Lance hit it and it doesn't count? Come on.
They ran the same play. Do you remember this, Grant? And in fact, I think the conversation was with you when they ran that play against Seattle and Trey Lance hit it. Somebody had asked us a question. Do you think Jimmy would have hit that throw? And I was like, of course he would have. I mean, it was wide open. Of course, any NFL quarterback would have hit that throw. Well, we actually got our answer just a few short weeks later. And the answer is no, he wouldn't have hit that throw because he didn't hit that throw in the Tennessee Titans game. So, no, yes, the shot plays are there. And yes, they are Shanahan specials, but you still got to make the throw. And Jimmy has proven over and over he cannot do that.
It sounds like what he's saying is like, this guy's not going to be a top 5 quarterback in the league. Like, okay, yeah, maybe not. I'm not saying he will. I mean, I'm not saying he's Patrick Mahomes, but like, what are you saying, Chris? Like, you're saying he's going to be, what did he rank him? Like 31st in the NFL?
Yeah, 31st.
Really? You'd rank him below Davis Mills? Really? You sure? Now, again, maybe Trey Lance struggles in September. Maybe some of these guys who played more last year do better than him out of the gate, although he's got a better team. He's got more talent. He's had more time on the scout team. I don't know. I'm not saying that Trey Lance necessarily comes out and is terrible in September. I'm more concerned about his his health behind that offensive line. I'm nervous. Aaron Banks, you better be good.
That's a fair concern. It really is.
Mr. Banks.
Alcoholic, that's very, very original. I like it. Says, yo, Grant, I pleaded for Cohn koozies, probably for his alcoholic beverages, in my survey. Did you make the koozies? Need answers. Make koozies. Play the kid.
We haven't made anything yet. That's a June project. But I'll let them know. Koozies are wanted.
You have been rocking the shirts, though. You've been rocking. I've seen these shirts. I like them. They're slick.
It's hard to put it out there. Just let people know that they're coming. But I need to finish something up in the next week and a half, and then I'll go.
That's fair. But make koozies, Grant.
All right.
Make
koozies are fun. I like koozies. Yeah.
All right. And here is the last comment that I want to dissect. So this is Ryan Harris. He was an offensive lineman, I believe, for the Broncos back in the day. At any rate, he was on CBS Sports headquarters and said, "But I'm here to tell you," and he's talking about Trey Lance, "that after people that I've talked to, everyone I've spoken to expected Jimmy Garoppolo to start Week 1 versus the Bears." First of all, let's stop there. Uh, what? he and
In the
everybody he talks
world?
to expects, yeah, I
Everyone in the
guess
world.
the world, Craig.
Wow. The
Okay.
world. The world, Craig. All right. Yeah. So Trey Lance
Little off.
is the fitness of his arm. First of all, that is just gibberish. I've never
What
heard
does
that.
that mean?
And
The
again, you
fitness of
say
his arm.
something and it sounds kind of scientific and people don't question it, but you realize it means nothing and they don't define it. So how do we even, are we supposed to guess? What are we supposed to guess? Hold on. And then he says whether he can digest the playbook. Oh, that's code. And then he says, really start to process the game at a high level, code. So what you're telling me is that this black quarterback is more of an athlete than it's like, come on, man. Really? Are we doing this in 2022? Come on. It's the same criticism every time. How do you know? What has changed? People act like there's been a camp or an OTA. Like he's just been doing, he's working out with freaking Tom House. What is he not processing? He didn't process lunch correctly today. He just didn't process it. Ryan Harris found out. He had a source. Indigestion. It's questionable. It's a bad sign.
Does he have Pepto-Bismol is the question.
If he's lactose intolerant, how are you going to process these coverages, man? These coverages are no joke. You can't even handle milk. Sorry, bro. I've seen enough. There's not one good. All the top 10 quarterbacks can process lactose. There's never been a good lactose intolerant quarterback. That's facts.
True. That's a good point. No, that's a great point. Again, here's the issue. Flat out lies. Grant, I think it was November 16th that Shanahan came out, was asked about Trey Lance and him learning the playbook. And is he getting better? I think the question was posed to him, is Trey Lance learning the playbook more and more each week? And Kyle Shanahan said he's got the playbook. He's got it in his mind. He's had it since training camp. So this guy here, Ryan Harris, says that there are concerns about him learning the playbook and processing that. Okay. Well, he's had it since training camp.
Anyone who's heard Trey Lance talk about football and Jimmy Garoppolo talk about football can tell you that Trey Lance is smarter. You telling me that Trey is the one having trouble digesting the playbook? Dude, Jimmy's in year 6 of trying to digest his playbook, and he still has to cut whole sections out because he doesn't like them. Are you kidding me? Like, Jimmy's the one who's remedial, not Trey. And that's what, like, when people try to talk like they've heard about the Niners, like, dude, you misheard. You think you're hearing about Trey, you're hearing about Jimmy. The guy who can't process, no, that's number 10, not number 5. I mean, maybe Trey's going to have his own issues down the line, but comparatively, it's 10 with those problems, not 5.
Okay, so
people just assume Jimmy can do that stuff because he's white and he stands in one spot. I'm sorry. I said it, but I'm sorry.
And he's been in the league for 8 years.
Quarterback. He has no idea what he's looking at. Zero. No. He predetermines a read, and that's why he throws so many picks. Book is out on Jimmy. But he digests and processes and does all these verbs that don't include anything, physically tangible. Sorry. I got worked up.
So somebody brings this up. First of all, 49ers throwback. Appreciate it. We saw improvements from Lance. Jimmy never did. That was the point that Grant basically just made. Yes, completely agree with that. Somebody asked him, I can't find the comment now, but somebody asked Harris if those were current coaches and players for the 49ers that he had talked to, and his answer was yes.
Okay. Well, now every starter on the team is 22 years old. So, in your face.
Yeah, in your face.
25 and younger, Niners.
Abu Marcus says Sims and Harris can go asterisk
bleep themselves I have no
4
idea
times.
I guess we'll never know. Yeah.
Never know.
We'll ask
You
for
should
it.
have spelled it out. The best
Yeah.
$4.99 I've ever spent, but I don't even know what you said.
We'll never know. Yeah. Yeah.
I agree though, by the way. I don't know, man. This whole thing is it's interesting. And you're right. I think that people make assumptions. First of all, it's unfair to expect these ex players to watch everything that we watch. We're 49er fans, right? Or we cover the 49ers. And we watch every game inside and out. We watch all 22. We talk about the 49ers in the middle of May. We've got 250 of you in the chat supporting us talking about the 49ers, which means you're rabid fans as well, or you hate myself or Grant. Either way, you're here. The point is that those guys don't watch the 49ers the way that most of us do, right? They watch the NFL as a whole. Then they make blind assumptions based off of, well, the 49ers have made a Super Bowl. They've made an NFC championship game. And Jimmy Garoppolo is there. He's an 8-year veteran. It stands to reason that he would know the offense, and he's a big part of why they've made it there. And so now we've got a young quarterback coming in who doesn't have a lot of experience taking over for Jimmy. It's not going to be as successful, and it's not going to be as successful because of Trey Lance. That is the wide assumption that is being made over and over and over. And quite frankly, whether they are right or wrong, the premise of why they have this thought process is completely off base.
My only question with Trey this year is like, it's not about his accuracy. I don't think his accuracy is going to cost them games. My question is, how many games will his inexperience cost the 49ers? And again, that's not his fault. That to me is a consequence of them not playing him last year. So, like I remember when Kaepernick first started playing, he had a great debut. I think he was great the next week, but then every couple of weeks, like a game would be tight. He would do something at the end that would remind you, like, oh, he hasn't played much. And I'm curious, like, is Lance going to be like that where he's still going to be better than Jimmy? But again, this could have all been avoidable. Could have all been avoided. Like, are we going to see just the product of him being inexperienced early in the season? Because again, he shouldn't be inexperienced. He should have had 14 starts under his belt at least.